I really am happy to talk about any questions. So there is no question I don't like. There are some questions that I get asked often, and so I can get bored sometimes, but I'm happy to talk about it. No, let me think. Well, I never had anything like cleaning bathrooms or like that. There were parts of almost everything I've done that I've enjoyed. I worked at I don't think this is in France, but there was a fast food chain called Taco Time. And that was pretty terrible. You'd smell like the grease always. And you're just standing in line making burritos and things like that. So that was pretty bad. But I worked in a grocery store for 5 or 6 years. And there were good and bad things about that. I always knew that it was not a career, which made it frustrating in that way. And the things that the people whose career it was, the people who owned the store, took it very seriously, and I never did. And so that was frustrating for them, I'm sure. Things like that. I drove cars for, I delivered new cars to traveling salesmen, right? And took their old car back to the factory. But I was very poor and I drove very fast, and so that was okay. Well, I am not drawn to manga, but therefore I don't know it very well. In the US, it is mostly for children or girls. But every time I travel, I see a wide variety of what manga is that I am unaware of. And so I think I might like more than I know. KHA at this show has a look that I enjoy very much, and I can tell that we have some of the same influences from Franco-Belgian work. To be curious, to not just think of one thing, not just look at one style, to broaden your interests, because there's so many talented people through the centuries, but also through the decades, that can be learned from just in comics too. I have certainly done that, looking at illustrators from outside of comics, from children's books to magazine illustration, and that keeps my work fresh. And I also think it helps you think in a different way and think beyond the sort of standard way of doing things, and that always helps. When you just learn how to draw one way, especially if you have success that way, it's very scary to try to do something else. So there are people like, well, people tend to dislike Rob Liefeld, and I know him as a person and I like him as a person, but I know why people don't like his artwork. But I've also seen his sketches, and he can really draw pretty well. But at a very young age, he made millions of dollars drawing the way he still draws. And so it's very hard for him to think, well, I should maybe try to draw a different way. So that's an example of what I mean. And so I would encourage people to always look outside of that. And then it's just practice, draw and draw and draw and draw, because you will always get better when you do that. And it is the people that, I'm not like this, I wish I was, but there are certain artists that are always compelled to draw. They're just always sketching. John Buscema was like that. Gabriel Bella here is constantly, drawing and making notes, and her mind is just absorbing things all the time and trying to express herself, and I'm not really built that way. I used to draw more than I do, actually, but you get better if you do that. You just inevitably do. There's an old saying that everyone has 200 bad pages in you that you must get through before you draw your first good one. And that's pretty true. I was thinking about this the other day, that I thought I was good when I wasn't good. And so that was encouraging to me. And other people were also encouraging to me. I know because what they were doing was they weren't comparing me to other professionals, they were comparing me to what they thought they could do. And it was better than what they thought they could do. And so they were complimentary, and that made me feel better and made me keep going, right? But you gotta just put the work in, put the time in, and look at other people, and that is inspiring to you and makes you want to work more as well. So those are the qualities, I think. Thinking more and more about doing that. I want to do a noir. I want to own the book. I want to write, and I also want to work with other writers. And I want to, there are many different forms of noir. For instance, just to compare it to other writers, Chandler is similar but different to Dashiell Hammett. If you know the Thin Man movies, they're not really noir, but they're black and white detective, bad guys and good guys. But they're also very, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a husband and wife who are well-to-do in the 1930s, and they're always drinking and throwing parties, and then all of a sudden they have to solve a crime. And so that's a very different style than the Maltese Falcon, right? But I'd like to do all that kind of thing. And that's about as far as I've gotten. I don't really even have a title. For a while I was calling it The Killing Floor, but every time I turn around there's another killing floor happening. I named mine after an old blues song by Howlin' Wolf. But really every year there's another thing calling itself The Killing Floor, and I don't want to just be part of that. So I don't know what the name of it's going to be. And my worst story was, there was one time in Spain where a guy who I'd done 5 or 6 drawings for already, right, in different, because I was at a big convention, this is Barcelona, and different publishers wanted me to come different places, right, and then the convention wanted me to sit with other convention guests. And so I was drawing, and I would have a certain amount of time that I was there. And this guy showed up at every different one. And I was late, I had to leave. Unfortunately, the convention did not police the line, so there were still people there when I had to leave. And the convention should think ahead of time and say, okay, you're the last one, so that I'll be done by the time I have to leave, right? And anybody might be frustrated if they've been waiting in line and, oh, I gotta go, right? So this guy was taking the place of another person that could have gotten something. I drew him something, I gave it to him, it was quick, and I gave it to him, and he looked at it and he went, And I took it back and I tore it up. And just, I was so angry. He was so rude. He then pretended not to know, what did I do? And he deprived other people of getting a drawing or a dédicace or something, you know. So that was the worst. And that's recent. It's rare, but it's recent. That never used to happen. People used to always be very grateful and kind and polite to other people in line and that sort of thing. This is very mercenary because they are not collecting. They're collecting to sell. It's not for their own collection. So if I'm doing something free and they sell it, you know, okay, I wish they wouldn't. But I always make sure somebody gets something, and so there's that. What I really dislike is when they talk about how big a fan they are and, oh, I just love your work because you do this, and then immediately it's on eBay. And I remember those people, and I never will draw for them again. And this is a big discussion in the US among artists. There are other people like Darwin Cook who are, get out of the, you know, he's just like, you know, and I'm not like that, but, so it sort of depends. If somebody pays money, what that means is that I need to make sure to ask for the amount of money that I'm happy with. But it also means that they think they can sell it for more than what they paid for, which means maybe I should be asking more, which means there are people that won't be able to afford, other fans who really want the artwork won't be able to afford it. So it's complicated, and all caused by people who, they're called flippers in English. They just buy it to turn it over, right? No, I don't like it. But just because I see it on eBay doesn't mean that I think somebody's, I mean, sometimes somebody's bought something a couple of years ago and they need some money, and, you know, that's okay. Ooh. It changes. My father, Obama. No, and they're different people. Obama is not my father. You know, here's a one I bet you didn't expect. Simone de Beauvoir. So I'll leave you with that. Okay. Oh, what is this? This is an actress named Lauren Graham, who I have a crush on. And so I like to show it to the world every chance I can.
It's okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah.
It was my pleasure.